on this forgiveness aspect, but more on the initiation. Who initiates forgiveness? Is it me or the person who harmed me? And how does that all come about? And where are the biblical kind of roots to this? So take it from there.
Yeah, often we think the one that does wrong should initiate. We wait for that moment because even in the obvious case, even in the worst case that the other person knows they've done wrong. Okay, let's go to that extreme scenario. I've done wrong, I know I've done wrong, and the other person that's hurt knows the other person, it's clear as the sky on a beautiful day. It's clear that you've done wrong. And nothing happens until somebody moves to make it happen. Isn't it interesting? And oftentimes we wait for the other person because it's so obvious. I think there's a beautiful story in the Bible, John chapter 21. I'll just read a few verses. You know the story. I'll just give you the backdrop. Peter decides after the post-resurrection of the Lord, Peter decides with some of the disciples to go to fishing. I love this story because they're back in their old lifestyle. They want to go back to their old lifestyle. Everything is over. Yeah, we saw the Lord, but they just kind of go back and they live in their own ways.
Yeah.
You getting the picture?
Yeah.
And so they're fishing. Jesus comes on the scene, and John chapter 21 records this story. Now come and have some breakfast. Verse 12 starts by, now come and have breakfast, Jesus said. None of the disciples dared to ask who you are. They knew that it was the Lord. My friends, I want to remind you, you oftentimes wait for the other person because they've done wrong. They've done wrong. You know they've done wrong. And in this story, it's so clear. Peter is the one. We're focusing on Peter's story because he's the one who denied the Lord 3 times. The one is supposed to be the leader. And here you see the story. Jesus is the one who initiates the relationship. At the end of the day, it's about relationship.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, how much do you love us? Whoever it may be. Right? At the end of the day, it is, are you going to be that big guy? Now, here's what I say, be bold in forgiveness. I keep repeating this word because I've not heard many people talk about this word. Be bold in forgiveness. I think Jesus was demonstrating a boldness in forgiveness. We have boldness for many things, right? You be bold in this. You be bold in that. You be bold in doing these things. But I think being bold to forgive people, it's not there yet. I'm hoping and praying that you will catch the idea. If you're the one who goes first, is the guy that is bold. And everyone that is bold will always make, at the end, a winner. That's the challenge that we have. And Jesus in this story comes up to them and he says, now come and have breakfast. See, the Eastern lifestyle is more of fellowship and friendship. At the table, they build relationships. That's the Eastern way. In the Western culture, we say we forgive, I say, you say, and we shake hands, we forget, it's over. But I think there's a deeper meaning when you can sit and have some breakfast. Because what happens when you sit down, your guards of running away or avoiding or just shake hand and walking away, those things are gone. Because when you sit down, you're there. The Eastern culture says when you sit down, when you have a conversation, when you're eating, there's a lot of dynamics that happen in sitting. We did a series of bells.
Right.
And the very first thing, we teach people about how do you bless people. We talk in a series of saying, have you invited someone to eat with you? Mm-hmm. I think there is a power in having that fellowship time of eating together. And so Jesus invites these disciples to come and eat, and he serves them. Look at the power. Not just invitation, not just bringing food, but now he invites in serving them.
To put the scene in perspective, just in human terms, right? This isn't a Jesus term. This is a human perspective. So imagine, you've just spent 3 years with somebody. You've been teaching them. You've been pouring into them. You've been giving them all you can, and the world crucifies you. And the guys you taught all of these lessons to, you would think immediately would go, oh, yeah, we're going to keep the tradition. But where does he find them? Back doing what they always did. They were hanging out and fishing, right? They went back to their old ways almost immediately. You don't think that Christ in that moment, I mean, the human piece of him, if it's
what
me,
are you
I'm
doing?
exploding. Like, what are you doing? We spent all this time together. I told you I was going away. And you guys went back fishing. I mean,
Wow.
right? Right? And there is that moment where you're like, and he goes, oh, no, hey, let me cook you a little breakfast. Let's have a little conversation. All the while knowing that they're now feeling something.
Yeah.
And Peter's probably feeling so much more guilt and shame.
Yes.
Because he understands he promised something, right? Anytime we make a commitment to Christ, we're making this awe and reverence moment of connection and covenant.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's feeling the weight of that.
Yes.
And now Jesus walks up.
Yes.
Wow. You think could you do that?
Yeah. And you know, when you said that, you know, after 3 years of me spending time, Bob, these guys have watched miracles.
Yeah.
They saw the dead come to life. Who would go back to the normal life?
Right. Yeah. How could you? Well, I guess he's gone. Let's go fishing. I mean, you know, that's almost and to see Christ's heart as he kind of wanders up to that moment.
Yeah.
Like
Such a love.
yeah, and the forgiveness of that, just not to lose his mind on him, right? As we would say. But he doesn't come across it. Don't read that in the text. We read more of a, okay.
Whoa. Yeah, what would you say if you invested so much of time, the best of the best, and somebody's walking, and then they walk away from you, get back to the old life, and you come back to them? Would you talk to them like Jesus did and say, come to breakfast? Or would you say, let's be natural for a minute? I would chew them out.
Well, and that's, I mean, right. I mean, I've had to repent of sometimes just that switch flipping when somebody I've invested in decides to go a different way, and then to realize, oh, yeah, that's not Christ-like.
Yeah.
Christ-like's like, no, okay, let's go to lunch.
Yeah.
Tell me about your life again.
Yes. And when you do that, Bob, this is what Jesus was doing exactly. I think, you know, we all have a switch in our lives. Either you can be like Christ, or you can be like you, or you can be like somebody else to teach a lesson. But I think if you really want to put on the switch of Christ, the whole dynamics will change.
Absolutely.
It will change. If it doesn't change the other person, don't worry about it, but it will change you, and that you is more important. And I think Jesus has the power to take a revenge, chew them out, tell them off, but he comes back, and look who he talks to first. He talks to Simon Peter. The very first word, after breakfast, he feeds them. He doesn't talk much. He feeds them. Obviously, there is some conversation going on, but I think there was, like Bob said, you know, there was a lot of guilt going on in all of them who were there. What are we doing with this? Now we are caught.
Right.
What am I supposed to do?
Yeah. My hands are caught in the fishing jar. I mean, you know, at that moment.
What do I do?
Wow.
Friends, I want to tell you, no matter when and how you're caught, I want to tell you the power of forgiveness. Jesus is waiting to forgive you.
Yeah.
You know, you don't understand the dynamics of waiting, but the Lord on this scene comes and waits for the disciples while they were caught, you know, using the word in a terms of saying, you know, not doing what you're supposed to do, but doing something else. But God has this patience with all of us. When you're caught red-handed, He's waiting to give His loving hands towards you. He's waiting. Literally waiting. And that's what happens in this story. He waits. And the one that really needs most forgiveness was in this scene was Peter, because he denied him 3 times before Jesus went to the cross. So obviously that's the scene that is happening, and Jesus comes to the scene and he talks to him. The very first word that he says, amazing. Simon, son of John, do you love me? That's the first thing. The second thing, the word is there, you know, more than these things. Okay, but let's sort of dissect. Do you love me? I think as I was talking about the forgiveness earlier, it's about relationship.
Right.
I think we really did not even understand the power of love that God has displayed to us, that we need to display to others. We say, yeah, that's the greatest commandment, but do we really love others? I've been with friends, I've been with companies, I've known people more on agenda-based, driven than love-based. I always have to remind myself, it's a love-based or agenda-based?
Right.
Sorry, I think in the West we're more agenda-based.
Oh yeah.
We're driven by agendas. Jesus has an agenda, but he doesn't bring up the agenda. He brings up one of the most powerful things is, I love you.
Well, and the demonstration of that love being forgiveness.
Yeah.
You know, for real love to take place, I can forgive, right? You know, you're a father, I'm a father. Our sons can do things, you know, we want to lose it, have that moment, we catch them in it. But in the end, we just, the real sign of our love is the ability to forgive and move past it. Now we have to be the ones who forgive. They don't, and in this story, as you just said, right? Jesus walks up and he forgives.
Yes.
He initiates it, he forgives, and he does it enough times to kind of remind us, the reader, as well as Peter, you know what? As many times as you go back to this, I'm there. Yes. I'm there. And I think that love of the relationship is best shown in forgiveness, in mercy.
Yeah.
Right? That's when a child kind of figures it out. I'll never forget a good friend of mine. His son was playing baseball in the yard, small yard. Ball comes through the glass, right? And the mom is like, wait till your father gets home. So father walks in from work. My buddy walks in from work. Walks in, he sees his son. His son's on the couch crying, sobbing. And father looks at him, looks at the wife. The wife's waiting for the boy to get his due, right? Because he broke that window. And the father looks at his son and says, you okay? He says, yeah, I'm okay. Dad, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do it. Still sobbing. And his father goes, okay, we're good. And the boy doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
He goes, well, you've been beating yourself up enough all day long. I don't need to tell you did wrong. Let's fix the window and let's move on. Yeah. You know, that's love, right? That's forgiveness.
Yes.
That's caring. That's Christ in action, right? Mm-hmm. It's a simple idea. Real love comes with forgiveness.
Yes. And God is love.
Right.
God is love. And he demonstrates to us, no matter how much you messed up in your life, no matter what happened in your life, he demonstrates that I love you. I think, you know, that's the most powerful word. And I'm not saying just a casual way of loving. You know, you cannot equate the word love in a word, I love my dog, I love my car. You cannot equate that word to God. There is something about that word, God is love. It's the power beyond our understanding. Yeah. And I think that's what you see Jesus taking, you know, who comes, who takes the first step? I think the one that is bold, Jesus is bold to forgive. He waits to forgive. And then he forgives Peter. And that's the reason he's asking. He says, Peter, do you love me? The key thing is when you love people, you will forgive. Bob, this is the root of forgiveness is love. We really have not learned, I have not learned much about just loving people at whatever the cost may be. We love our families, like you said, because they're kin, the blood. We kind of have an underwritten way of, and some of the fathers have not forgiven. Some of the parents have not forgiven the children. They still have that anger. I hope and pray that you will understand the power of forgiving the family, the power of forgiving friends. And I think it starts right here, because if you love someone, you will forgive. I think this is so important. You know, in the world that we're living in, there's so much anger, hatred, corporate frustrations. You have to meet the deadlines and all those things. Underneath that, you know, I don't even think sometimes we love our colleagues that we need to love. You know, we only think love our neighbor means that the neighborhood, but love our neighbor is one that's hurting, the one that is messed up, and some are emotionally broken. You know, we're talking to some people in our journeys that we talk to people that are broken, that are trying to survive because they've never experienced love. How many people that you come across that have not experienced love? And to find love, you run everywhere else. Friend, to find love, God is waiting. That's where our love begins. When you understand God, you understand His love, and then you can love others. Otherwise, it's so hard. Love becomes a conditional thing, You give me this, I love you. You give me raise, I love you. You bring me coffee, I will love you. Love is always about an exchange and a transaction. It's not like that with God's love. God's love, He initiates that. So we hope and pray that you will be bold, take the first step and say that I forgive you. And Jesus does this in this story. He comes to Peter, gives him breakfast. First of all, he waits for him, Peter and all the disciples, right? And then he gives them the breakfast. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't chew them up when they're eating.
Right.
He's just calmly waiting. And then the first thing that he asks after breakfast, every word in the Bible is so powerful, isn't it? After breakfast. I mean, look at that word, after breakfast. If that word was not there, give time for people to eat, settle down, calm. And please, my friends, in the Eastern culture, people didn't eat food like we eat today. We eat while we're driving. We're used to chewing food in 2 minutes. That doesn't happen that way. They take their time. Enjoy a bite. And the fellowship. That's eating. We lost the art of eating. Maybe we should do a podcast on that.
Well, there you go. I think the table might be one of our next ones, right? But this is good for us now. So we have talked today about initiating. Who initiates? It's God within us. It's His Spirit helping us to forgive others who've harmed us, recognizing where they may have gone wrong, but it's not about them coming to us. It's about us going to them, and it's about us continuing the relationship, demonstrating Christ's love in the middle of our lives in whatever we do. So I think this was a great, another great episode of this idea of the power of forgiveness. And so we look forward to everyone joining us again next week as we continue the power of forgiveness.
Thank you.